Hello everyone, welcome back again. In this video we are going to talk about flow control in Java, and let's get started. In programming, we often encounter situations where a certain block of code should only execute if particular conditions are met. Java provides various control statements to manage the flow of execution based on these conditions. Java's primary selection of statements include the if statement, we have if else, we have nested if else if, switch case, and inside the switch case we have some statement or jump statement like break. In this video we will focus on all of them, and let's start with the if statement. For the if statement, it is the most simple decision-making statement. It is used to decide whether a certain statement or block of statements will be executed or not. That is, if a certain condition is true, then a block of statement will be executed, otherwise not. This is the syntax of an if statement. We start with the if keyword here, and inside this parenthesis is where we put the condition, and if this condition turns to be true, then the statement inside these curly braces will be executed. If we do not provide the curly braces after the if condition here, then by default the if statement will consider the immediate one statement to be inside its block. For example, check out this code snippet here. We don't have the curly braces. The if condition here will consider statement 1 to be inside the block of code. So if this condition turns to be true, statement 1 will be executed. But statement 2 is not within the if condition block here. Okay, only statement 1. The curly braces less if statement type or method is very useful if you only have one statement. But if you have multiple statements that you want to execute inside the, or when the condition turns to be true, use the curly braces if statement. Let's see this in VS Code. Here, create a class and the main method, and we will start with the if statement. Let's say, for example, we have two integer here. I'll give 10 and y, I'll give it 20. To use if statement, you use the if keyword, then here you put your condition. We will use the relational operator. Remember, relational operators returns the boolean, either true or false. Here we check if x is less than y, which is true. If the condition turns here to be true, which is the case, we execute the statement that we put inside these curly braces. So here we can say x is less than y. So let's run this code, and you can see this block of code was executed. When we take a look at the curly braces less if statement, where we omit the curly braces, here when you do that, this still will be executed, and then this condition here we can say I am not in the if block. If this condition turns to be false, this will be executed. If this condition turns to be true, this will be executed too. In either cases, it will be executed because it is not inside the if block here. Let's run our code, and as you can see, when the condition is true, the second system out here was executed, and if we revert this to greater than to make this condition false, it will be executed too. When we run our code again, you can see it was executed because it is not inside the if statement block. That was the if statement. And next we have an if else. And for the if else statement, considering that the if statement alone tells us that if a condition is true, it will execute a block of statement, and if the condition is false, it won't. But what if we want to do something else if the condition is false? Here comes the else statement. We can use the else statement with the if statement to execute a block of code when the condition is false. This is the syntax. We have the if here. This block of code will be executed if condition is true, and this will be executed if the condition is false. Let's see it in code. Example here, we can have, so here we use the if, then put x is greater than y. Here you can say x is greater than y. But if this condition turns to be false, we can add an else statement here saying this or x is less than y. That. So let's run it. You can see the else statement was executed. That is how you use the if and else statement together. The next statement that we'll take a look is the nested if statement. And a nested if is an if statement that is the target of another if or else statement. Nested if statements means an if statement inside another if statement. And yes, Java allows us to nest if statement within if statement. That is, we can place an if statement inside another if statement. This is the syntax. We have the outer if statement here and the inner if statement. Here, if the condition turns to be true, then the block of code or the statements inside the first if statement will be executed. And then if the second condition turns to be true too, then the statements inside the second or the inner or the nested if statement will be executed. Let's see this in code. Here we can have x and y. Let's make it maybe 15. I want to show you something. So here we can check if x is less than y, which will turn to be true. Then inside this if statement, we can add another nested if statement and put our condition. Here we will check if x is an odd number, and to do that, we use modulus. If we divide that number by 2 and it has a remainder, that means it is an odd number. So here you can say x is less than y and it is an odd number, like that. But if it is less than y, and here when we did the modulus there was no remainder, that means that x is an even number. So here you can say x is less than y and it is an even number, like that. Let's run this code. Okay. Then when you do that, you can see x is less than y and it is an odd number. But when you change it to 16, like that, then run the code again, you can see that x is an even number. You can nest if statement inside another if statement, and you can also nest it inside an else statement. Here you can say another if and check if x is divisible by 2, or if it is an even or odd number. You can say out x is greater than y and it is an odd number. Let's make it that. Here we can put 26 and let's run this code. When you do that, okay, that was not executed because it's 26. Let's make it 25. Let me first clear the screen. When you do that, you can see this was executed, and you can nest as many if statements as you want in Java. Now let's see the if else if ladder. Here a user can decide among multiple options. The if statement are executed from top down, and as soon as one of the conditions controlling the if is true, then the statement associated with that if is executed, and the rest of the ladder is bypassed. If none of the condition is true, then the final else statement will be executed. This is what we mean. You have the if else if ladder that looks like this. So if this condition turns to be true, this statement will be executed, and the rest of the ladder, including the else, will be omitted or bypassed. But if this turns to be false, this else if turns to be false, and if you have another else if here, if all of them turns to be false, then this final else statement will be executed. But if one of these else if turns to be true, the statement associated with it will be executed and the rest of the ladder will be bypassed. Let's see this in action. Here we can clear the screen like that, so we can check if x is less than y, and let's introduce another variable z. Can give it 30. Let's make this 10 here. Here we can check if x is less than y. So then after that you can check if y, or let's not make it like that, let's just say x is less than y. Then we can add an else if here, else if like that. You can check if x is less than z. So if that is true, you can say x is less than z like that. Then you can add another else if like that, checking if z or y is less than z. Here you can say y is less than z. Then finally you can add an else statement saying something here. Maybe you want to print something out and saying x, y, and z are all variables or integers or whatever you want. Here you can make it logical to check the smallest and the largest number, but I'm not gonna do that. I just want to show you how if else if does. So here you can make this return false like that to make sure that this will be executed, and the moment this one will be executed, the rest of the ladder will be bypassed. Let me show you. When you do that, you can see only this block of code was executed and the rest was bypassed. That is how you use if else if ladder. And also here you can nest other if statement. That means you can add more if statement in here and else statements. Then finally we'll take a look at switch statement. The switch statement is a multi-way branch statement. In simple words, the Java switch statement executes one statement for multiple conditions. It's like the if else if ladder statement. It provides an easy way to dispatch execution to different parts of the code based on the value of the expression. And the expression can be a byte, a short, a character, or integer primitive data type. You can also use other data types like a string class or a wrapper class. For example, create a integer day here, give it value like 4. And then to use a switch statement, you use the switch keyword like that. And here, this is where you pass your key or the variable that will be checked, or the value. Here, you pass that variable, and this value here must be the same as the data type of the variable that you pass here as a key. If this one is an integer, this must be an integer. For example, 1. If it is a character, so let's say we have a character C, give it a like that, then that means that when you pass that C here, the values in these cases must be characters. So here you can do B. Okay, that is what I mean. And if you have multiple cases, they must be very different from each other. Each case must be unique. For example, here we can say print Monday, and as you can see here, we have a new keyword, the break statement. What it does, for example, we can add another case here. If day matches, or the value of day matches 2, we can print out and say this is Tuesday, like that. And then add a break statement here. What this break statement does is that if day here is, for example, 1, that means it will match this case. And then this code will be executed, and the work of break statement here is to break from this switch statement to make sure that the other code or the other cases are not executed. Break statement is added to make sure you break from the switch. It is also optional. You can remove it, and the moment you remove it and day 1 matches case 1, this will be executed, but the break statement, given that it is not there, it will not break from the switch. That means these other cases will be executed. If you want only one case to be executed the moment it matches, make sure you add the break statement like that. Then you can add other cases like case 3. Then here you can print something out saying Wednesday, like that, then add a break statement like that. And then here you can see we have another keyword which is default, and the default will be executed if no case matches the value of the variable. For example, when you put something like 10, you can see here we only have 1, 2, 3, so nothing matches 10, and in that case this will be executed. So here you can come and say invalid day, like that. When we run this code, the default will be executed, and default can be also be put anywhere. You can start with it, you can put it here at the center, and also you can end with default like that. And when you end it, the break statement here is optional, you can remove it. But if the default is between the cases inside here, make sure you include the break statement. Let's run this code. As you can see, this value or the default case was executed. But if we change this to 1, then run our code again, it will match case 1, which is Monday. That is how you use switch statement. I wanted to give you a homework. In this homework, I wanted you to create a simple calculator, and this calculator, it does 4 operations, arithmetic operation. And for this arithmetic operation, it can do addition, it can do subtraction, it can do multiplication, and it can do division. You can also add modulus. And also I need you to take the 2 operands from the user. Here you can use the scanner, which we learned in the previous lesson. Then also display the operations for the user to choose. For example, you can say 1 represent addition, you can say 2 represent subtraction, like that. What the user will do if he clicks 1, the case in the switch statement or whichever flow control we will use, maybe if else if, it will match addition, and then you will perform addition. If it is subtraction, like that. If it is division, like that. Try that out. Also, you can try to create a program. So this is another question. Make sure you create a program that calculates the leap year, and you can post your answers in the comment section below. In the next video, we are going to talk about loops, and if you have any question, you can also post it in the comments and I'll check it out. Thank you.